Hello students, today we are going to discuss with you a very important poem of English literature. The title of the poem is An Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. This poem is composed by Thomas Gray. He is an important poet of transitional era, that is the era between neoclassicism and romantic revival, the neoclassical age and the romantic age. And this transitional era, this title is given to the period that is second half of 18th century. The first half of 18th century is called the classical period. The first half of 19th century is termed as romantic period, while the period in between the classical age and the romantic age, that period is called transitional age. So Thomas Gray belongs to this particular period, transitional period. So Thomas Gray, William Collins, William Blake, and some other poets which belong to this age, they are called precursors of romantic revival. And the marking feature of these poets is that they have the qualities of classicism as well as the qualities of romanticism. As you will notice in this poem, let us begin. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. As you know, this poem is an elegy, and elegy is a song or a poem that is written on the death of somebody. Generally, elegies are written on the death of famous personalities, some great leaders, some great persons, some great poet, or on the death of a person who is very dear and near to the poet. But this elegy is unique in this respect. This poem commemorates the death of poor farmers, poor villagers who are not familiar with the poet. The poet is not a relative, the poet is not a friend. In any way, the farmers, they are not belonging to the poet. But these are the neglected beings who are being memorized, who are being commemorated by Thomas Gray. So, the environment that is created in the very first stanza is that of evening, and evening is a time when the day is going and the night is coming. So, at the end of the day and at the arrival of the night, there is a particular type of environment which creates a pensive mood. So, see the first line, the curfew tolls the knell of parting day. Curfew is the bell that is rung at the time of evening in order to warn the inhabitants of the village to put off to put out the fire and to put an end to all the activities of the day. So the curfew tolls, the curfew rings, the knell of parting day. Knell is the death bell, and parting day, the day that is departing. So the bell of the church is ringing in the time of evening, and it seems as if this bell, the bell of the curfew is the knell of parting day. When somebody dies, a bell is rung to declare his death, and that bell is called knell. So the curfew bell seems to be the knell of parting day, the day that is departing, the day that is coming to an end. So it seems as if the day is not departing, it is dying. And the bell that is ringing is actually the knell of that dying day. The lowing herd winds slowly over the lea. Lowing herd, lowing is the sound of animals. You can say braying herd, you can say mooing herd. The sound of the cow is called mooing. So lowing word has been used for the sound of the animals, particularly the domestic animals that are coming back from the grasslands, from the meadows. So the lowing herd, herd means group of those animals. Wind slowly means move slowly over the lea, over the grassland. And why they are moving slowly? Because it's the time of evening. Throughout the day, they have walked in the meadows, they have grazed the grass, and now they are tired. So they are winding slowly, they are moving slowly, they are walking slowly. The plowman, farmer, homeward means towards his home. Plods, moves. His weary way. Weary means tired. Way, path. So the plowman uh, goes on his path towards his home. The plowman is also going towards his home. And here we see the expression weary way. Weary, actually, the way is not weary, the plowman is weary. So, in this line, we have the figure of speech. Transferred epithet. Transfer means from one place to another. So this weary epithet, this weary adjective should have been applied to plowman, but here it has been applied to way. So the way or the path is not tired, the plowman is tired. The plowman homeward plods his weary way. And in the same line, you have another figure of speech, alliteration, weary way. WW, the sound of W is being repeated. So here in this line, you have two figures of speech, two poetic devices, transferred epithet and alliteration. And leaves the world to darkness and to me. And leaves the world. So as you see, leaves, it's a singular verb. And here you see the lowing herd winds slowly. Lowing herd, herd is a singular noun, but here the poet has used a plural verb, wind slowly, while the verb should have been winds. And here the and leaves the world to darkness and to me. So who leaves the world to darkness? The plowman, the farmer. He is leaving the world to darkness and to the poet. Now this verb leaves can be applied to all these three subjects. Parting day. So you can say the parting day leaves the world to darkness and to me. And you can say lowing herd leaves the world to darkness and to me. And you can say plowman leaves the world to darkness and to me. So this verb can be applied to all these three subjects. Leaves the world to darkness and to me. So as you see, the poet in the very beginning has depicted the scenario of the evening. He could have chosen the time of morning also. But because the poem is an elegy and he is going to lament the death of the poor farmers in this poem, he has intentionally chosen the time of evening. So the mood is created. The pensive mood is created in the very first stanza. So everybody is going to his or her home. The plowman, the farmer, is going to his home. Actually, he has gone to his home, and lowing herd means even the animals, they have gone to their homes. The birds have gone to their homes. So there is complete solitude. The poet is now alone, and everybody is gone, leaving the world to darkness and to the poet. And you will notice that this pronoun me has been used for the first and for the last time in this whole elegy. In the whole elegy, you will not find the first person pronoun I, me, or myself. So this is the first occasion and the last occasion when the poet is using the pronoun me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight. So fades means becomes dim, glimmering, shining. Landscape means the scenario on the side, means in front of the eyes of the poet. So the scenario that was visible up till now it's fading. Now it's becoming dim because the night is approaching slowly. So the scenario is becoming fade. It's becoming dim. Now the visibility is diminishing. So now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight. Now it's becoming, everything is becoming less visible. And all the air a solemn stillness holds. Solemn stillness, alliteration, here the figure of speech, alliteration. All the air a solemn stillness holds. So there is calm, solemn means serious, stillness, peace. So all the air, the whole environment holds a serious silence. So all around the poet, in the surroundings, there is a serious calm, there is a serious peace. Oh, and this sentence can be expressed like this: a solemn stillness holds all the air, or all the air a solemn stillness holds. So, in both the ways we can interpret this sentence. We can say the air holds a solemn stillness, or we can say a solemn stillness holds the air. So there is peace, there is calm, there is seriousness all around. Pin drop silence is there. Everywhere there is silence. And while you say during the day, there are so many types of noises. Birds are chirping, and people are making noises, they are having discussions, there are horns of vehicles. So many sounds are audible during the day. But now at the time of evening, everybody is gone home. Even the animals are gone to their sheds, the birds are gone to their nests. So there is stillness, there is silence everywhere. Even the air, the wind that moves very fast during the day, wind also makes a certain noise during the day, but during the time of evening, you must have realized, the wind also becomes silent. So there is silence everywhere. Save means except. Although there is silence everywhere, but there are some exceptions. Some sounds are still there. So what are those sounds? The one sound is where the beetle wheels his droning flight. Beetle is an insect, you can say a cricket. So where the beetle wheels his droning flight, droning, sleepy. So beetle is flying, and while flying he is making a sound. Beetle wheels, so he moves in circles, round and round. So the beetle is moving, beetle is flying, he is also sleepy, but he is making a sound. So the poet has used the word save, accept. Save means accept. So there, although in the whole environment there is silence, except from there is coming a sound from the place where the beetle is flying. Beetle is making a sound, and his flight is droning. His flight is sleepy. His flight is full of slumber, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Drowsy, so again, drowsy means sleepy, full of slumber. So, drowsy tinkling. Tinkling is the sound of bells that are hung in the neck of domestic animals. So, tinkling, now the adjective drowsy has been used for tinkling, for the tinkling sound. And again, you can say that this is an example of transferred epithet, because the sound of bells is not drowsy. Drowsy are those animals in whose neck those bells are hanging. Drowsy tinklings lull. Lull means to sing a lullaby, to make somebody sleep by singing a lullaby. Lull the distant folds. Distant means the folds, the sheds. Folds means sheds, cow sheds or animal sheds. So distance means that are situated at a faraway place. So the tinkling sounds makes the animals sleep. It seems as if the bells are singing a lullaby to make the animals sleep in the faraway sheds of animals. So the sound of those tinkling of bells is audible to the poet. One sound was that of the beetle, another sound is that of the tinkling of bells that are hung in the neck of the animals. So these two sounds are audible to the poet. The third stanza, save that from yonder ivy mantled tower the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower, molest her ancient solitary reign. So again he has used the word save. He had used this word here also, save. So save means accept. So in the second stanza, he told us that two sounds are audible to him. One is the sound of beetle, and second is the sound of tinkling of bells. Now another sound is audible to the poet. So again he is saying accept that sound, that from the yonder ivy mantled tower. Yonder, which is situated in front of the poet. The poet is sitting in the churchyard, and in front of the poet there is the tower, the church tower. And ivy, is a creeper. Mantled means covered. So the tower, the church tower is covered with creeper. And from that tower, there is coming a sound. There is coming a voice. And whose voice is that? That is the voice of the owl, moping owl. Moping owl means chirping owl. Or you can say owl is a little bit irritated, so he is making a irritating sound. Moping owl, so you can say angry owl. The moping owl does to the moon complain. The owl is irritated and it is complaining to the moon. And why is he complaining to the moon? He is angry with the moon, he is irritated with the moon, and he is complaining to the moon of such as wandering near her secret bower. He is saying to the moon that is wandering, moon is walking, moon is sending its rays near his secret bower, near his secret nest. The owl has made his nest in the tower of the church, and it's hidden from the whole world because the tower is covered with the ivy, with the creeper, and in that hidden place, in that secret place, the owl has created its nest. And even in that secret nest, moon is wandering, of such as wandering near her secret bough. So the moon is walking near the secret place, the secret nest of the owl. The owl wants to remain in solitude. The owl wants to remain away from this world, away from the lights, and the moon is sending its rays of moonlight into his nest. So that's why the owl is complaining to the moon. Molest means to disturb. So molest her ancient solitary wren, ancient old solitary lonely wren means place in the tower. It's the wren, it's the kingdom of the owl, nobody else is there, so the place absolutely belongs to the owl. So it's the wren, it's the kingdom of the owl, and this moon is molesting, the moon is disturbing the kingdom of the owl, the place of the owl. The old lonely place of the owl is being disturbed by the moon. So this is the complaint of the owl to the moon. Now the fourth stanza. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. Beneath means under. Those rugged elms, rugged means old, rough. Elms, it's a kind of tree that is found in abundance in European countries especially, and that yew tree shade. So these yew trees, they are also found in abundance in European countries, that yew trees shade. So under the shade of elm trees and yew trees, where heaves the turf grass, heaves grows up. So where the grass has grown in many a mouldering heap, a pile of soil, mouldering, declining, decaying. So the graves of the poor farmers, they are decaying and they have become just piles of soil, heaps of soil. And on their graves, the grass is growing, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap. So in those declining, in those decaying graves, the grass is growing. They have become just, their graves have become just piles of soil. Each in his narrow cell forever laid. Each in each grave, in each narrow cell, forever laid. So they are lying forever, they are sleeping forever, they are not going to wake up. In each in his narrow cell, narrow is small. So the graves, they are just small caves, and in those small caves they are sleeping forever. The rude forefathers. Rude means uncivilized, but here rude means unschooled or uneducated, or you can say unsophisticated. The rude forefathers, ancestors of the hamlet means village, sleep. So the unsophisticated or uneducated or unschooled ancestors of this village are sleeping in those tiny cells, in those tiny graves, in those small graves. The breezy call of incense breathing morn, the swallow twittering from the straw-built shed, the cock's shrill clarion, or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. The breezy call. Breeze, is the fresh, fragrant air of the morning. The breezy call of incense breathing morn. Incense is fragrance. So, incense breathing morn, in the morning, all the flowers they bloom, they give their fragrance. So, the morning air is full of freshness, full of fragrance. So, the call of this air, the sound of this wind of the morning, the fragrant, the sweet sound of the morning air. The breezy call of incense breathing morn means the sweet, fragrant sound of the morning air, morning wind, and the swallow twittering from the straw built shed. Swallow is a kind of word, and twittering is the sound of that swallow. From the straw built shed. Straw built shed means nest, that is built of dry grass. Straw is dry grass. So the swallow is making its twittering sound from its nest. So there is the sound of the breeze, the morning air, and here you have plenty of onomatopoeia. So there are so many sounds, and here you have the figure of speech. Onomatopoeia, the breezy call, so the call of the morning wind, and swallow twittering. Again you have the sound of swallow, and the cock's shrill clarion. So breezy call is very soft, and the sound of the cock, it's shrill, it's very sharp. Shrill means sharp. Clarion, so the sound, the sound of the cock, the crowing of the cock, or the echoing horn. Echoing horn, the sound of the horn. So the blowing of the horn. So all these sounds are there in the morning, and they make us wake up. We wake up listening to the twittering of the birds, to the chirping of the birds. We listen the shrill call of the cock. We listen the horn in the morning. So all these sounds, they make us wake up in the morning. But no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. All these sounds that make all the human beings wake up in the morning, they force all of us to rise up from our beds in the morning, no more shall rouse them. All these sounds cannot rouse them, cannot wake them up from their lowly bed, means from their graves. So he has used the word lowly bed. This type of expressions are called euphemisms. Instead of using the word grave, he has used lowly bed. So grave is a little bit harsh word, and when we use soft words in place of harsh words, the expression is called euphemism. So, all these sounds of the morning which force the human beings to wake up, all these sounds are unable to rise to wake up the ancestors, the forefathers of this village. Next, Sanja. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. For them, for these forefathers of the hamlet, for these poor farmers. No more shall the blazing hearth, no more the blazing hearth shall burn. Blazing hearth, hearth is a place made up of bricks and clay where food is cooked by burning the air and by burning the fire. So now for these poor farmers, no hearth shall blaze, no fire shall burn in the hearth for cooking food to these poor farmers. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. Busy housewife means and the women of the home, when the farmers return from their fields in the evening, the housewife starts preparing food for them. But now no busy housewife ply her evening care. So in the evening no housewife will prepare food for them. Ply her evening care means prepare in the evening, prepare food for them in the evening. The housewives, they wait for their husbands, and when they return from their fields, the housewives prepare food for them. So now no housewife is going to prepare food for them in the evening, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return. So when fathers return home in the evening, the children run at a speed. The children run very fast to go in the lap of their fathers, and they want to have the first kiss to, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. Envied kiss, envy means jealousy. So children generally have a rivalry. They want to go into the lap of the father first. They want to have the first kiss of their father. So now no child will run, no children will run to just climb into the lap of these poor farmers and to have the kiss of their father. Next stanza. Oft did the harvest to their suckle yield. Their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield? How bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke? Oft means often. Oft did the harvest crop, to their suckle yield. Suckle is the cutting instrument that is used by the farmers to cut the crop. Yield means surrender. So oft did the harvest to their suckle yield. Often the crops yielded means surrendered in front of their suckle. So suckle was like an armor, or you can say an armament, and the crop surrendered before that armament. When they had suckle in their hands, the harvest, the crops surrendered to them. Oft did the harvest to their suckle yield. Their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. Furrow, is the front side of the plow, which is generally made of metallic sharp edge of the plow is called furrow. Their furrow oft means often, stubborn means hard, glebe means earth, glebe earth, has broke. So their furrow means their plow often plowed the hard earth, hard land, dry land. Dry land becomes stubborn, dry land becomes very hard. So even the hardest land was plowed by their plows, by their furrow. It was broken by their furrow, by the sharp edge of their plow. How jocund. Jocund means happy, jolly. How happily, how jolly did they drive their team afield? So, how jocund, how happily did they lead their team means their group afield into the fields. So, how happily did they go to their fields? They went to their fields in groups, singing, dancing very happily. They went to cut their crops. They went to their fields in groups very happily. How about the woods beneath their sturdy stroke? So, in sturdy stroke, again you have alliteration. How about the woods? Bowed means surrendered. Woods, trees, jungles beneath their sturdy stroke. Beneath means under, sturdy means strong, stroke means blow. So when they attacked with their axe, the trees were cut down. The woods surrendered themselves when they made a blow with their axes. So in this stanza he shows their power, even their agricultural instruments, their farming instruments, they had this power that the crops surrendered before them. They could plow the hardest land. They were very happy when they worked in their fields. The woods, the large trees, they also surrendered before their axes. So even in their uh, small circle of working field, they were powerful, they were happy. Next stanza. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. So, in this stanza, you have plenty of personifications. Let not ambition mock their useful toil. So, here the poet is warning the aristocratic people, the rich people, the wealthy people, not to make fun of these poor people, of these poor farmers. Let not ambition. So, ambition has been personified here. So, ambition stands for ambitious people. Mock means make fun of. Joke, crack jokes of their useful toil. Toil, hard work, diligence, labor. So, the hard work of these poor farmers, the diligence of these poor farmers, it was useful because if the farmers don't grow grains, what will the world eat? So, their hard work is useful. So, the ambitious people should not make fun of the hard work of these poor farmers. The poet is warning them. The poet is forbidding them. Don't make fun of the hard work of these farmers, these poor farmers. Let not ambition mock their useful toil. So, ambitious people are not allowed, are not advised to make fun of the diligence, the hard work of these poor farmers. Their homely joys, simple joys. So these poor farmers, they couldn't organize magnificent parties. Their joys were very simple. Their celebrations were very simple. Their festivals were very simple. If their animal, if their buffalo gave a female baby, it was an occasion to celebrate. So these type of joys they had. And if they had a good crop, again it was an occasion for celebration. So this type of joys are called homely joys, simple celebrations. Their homely joys and destiny obscure. Destiny, their life story was obscure. Obscure means that's not famous. They were not famous persons. About them, nothing is written in the history books. So their destiny, their lives, they were obscure, not famous. Nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile. Grandeur has been again personified here. So grandeur means grand people, again aristocratic people, wealthy people. So nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile. Disdainful means full of disrespect, full of hatred, disdainful smile. So the wealthy people or the aristocratic people should not listen with a disrespectful smile. The short and simple annals of the poor. Short and simple means annals means life history. The narratives of the lives of these poor people, they are short and simple. They are, because they are not very famous, nobody knows them, no monuments have been built up in their memory. So their annals means the history of their lives, the narratives of their lives are short and simple, brief, and there is no magnificence of narration in the lives of these poor farmers, in the life history of these poor farmers. So see the ninth stanza. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power. Boast of heraldry. Boast means bragging, speaking in high terms. Heraldry means heredity, lineage, or you can say dynasty. So if you speak highly of your dynasty, if you speak highly of your heredity, of your dynasty, or if you brag of your heredity, if you brag of your dynasty, and the pomp of power. Pomp means display, manifestation, showing of power. If you have money power, muscle power, knowledge power, and if you display it, pomp of power means show of power, display of power. And all that beauty. If you are beautiful and you take pride in showing your beauty, if you are proud of your being beautiful, all that wealth ever gave. So if you are wealthy and you make a show of your wealth, you have been given wealth by your destiny and you make a show of that wealth, all these things awaits alike the inevitable hour. Awaits alike means wait in the similar manner. He has used singular verb again, awaits, while there are so many subjects, and he has used a singular verb awaits, alike in the same manner, in the similar manner, or you can say simultaneously. The inevitable hour. Inevitable hour means death. Again, he has used this soft expression inevitable hour in place of using the word death. So, here is also an example of euphemism. The inevitable hour means if you are beautiful, if you are powerful, if you belong to a great dynasty, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference because death is a great equalizer. So, awaits alike the inevitable are. Everything, eh, power, beauty, lineage, ancestry, all of them wait for death in the similar manner. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. The paths, the ways of glory, of grandeur, of wealth, of luxurious life lead means carry, but to grave, towards the grave. So you may adopt any type of life, any path of life, but every path will ultimately carry you towards your grave. All of us are going to the same place. The and that is the place. Which place is that? Grave. So if you belong to a religion like Hinduism, you are going to be burnt, and if you belong to any other religion, you are going to be buried in the grave. So all the paths will lead you to the same place. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn ale and fretted vault the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Nor you, ye proud. So again, proud, its personification, it stands for the proud people. Nor you, ye proud. So you means you and ye, both of them have the same meaning. So here is superfluity. When the writer or the poet uses more than one word, where one word is sufficient, he is using two words, you and ye. So here it is superfluity, and you will find many examples of superfluity in this poem. Nor you, ye pride, means you proud people, impute. Impute means charge to these the fault. So you proud people, you should not charge these poor people with the fault. This is not the fault, this is not the guilt, this is not the crime of these poor people. If memory, and memory again here has been personified, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise, over their tomb, over their graves, no trophies raise means no grand buildings, no magnificent buildings have been constructed over their graves. Trophies raise means magnificent buildings have not been constructed over their graves. So, this is not the fault of these poor farmers. If in their memory nobody has constructed a magnificent building like Taj Mahal or Sikandra, so it's not the fault of these poor farmers. Where through the long drawn ale, where means in those magnificent buildings, the magnificent buildings that are constructed in the memory of royal personalities, kings and queens. So in those places, in those buildings, through the long drawn A, in the long lines. So on both the sides there are long lines, and between those two queues or between those two lines there is a path. So that is called aisle, A-I-S-L-A, aisle. So the path that is between the two queues or two rows of seats. You must have noticed when you are in the church, on both sides there are seats for the visitors, and in between there is a path that is called aisle. Long drawn aisle and fretted vault. Fretted vault, a song that is being sung in a high sound. Fretted vault. Uh, vault is a song of praise. Fretted, which is being sung in a high, loud sound. So, in praise of those dead personalities, the a song of praise, a tribute is being paid in a loud voice. The pealing anthem swells. Pealing anthem. Anthem is song. Pealing means that's having high sound. Pealing anthem swells the note of praise. So, note of praise, uh, words of praise, songs of praise are sung in loud voices in those buildings, in those monuments. Pealing anthem swells, swells rises the note of praise. So, high tributes are given to those royal personalities, to those great personalities in those monuments that are constructed in their memory. So, if all these tributes are not paid to these poor farmers, it's not their fault. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Can storied urn? Urn is a pot which is used to to keep the remainings of dead people. Animated bust. Bust is a statue. Animated means lifelike. So if we make a lifelike statue, a vivid statue, statue generally made of metal. So if we make a statue of a dead person, or if we write the story of that person on an urn, on a pot, back to its mansion call the fleeting breath. Mansion means house, and here mansion has been used for human body. Back to its mansion called the fleeting breath or the soul that has flown away, that has gone away from the body. Can it be called back if we write the story of that dead person on an urn, or if we create a statue in his memory? Can the soul of that person come back to its mansion, to its body? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust? Honor's voice. So, honor has been personified here. The honor's voice stands for the honor that is given by others to the dead person. So, can that voice of respect provoke the silent dust? Silent dust, again here is euphemism. Silent dust stands for dead body. Provoke means incite, excite that dead body. Can that dead body move at the sound of the honor, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Flattery means the tribute that is being paid to them, the words of praise that are being spoken in the memory of those dead people, can those words soothe, can they relieve the dull cold ear of death, means the ears of those dead people? If we speak highly in praise of them, if we pay respect to them, if we pay tribute to them, can their ears feel happy? Can they feel happy when somebody flatters us, when somebody praises us? We feel happy. Living beings, living human beings, become very happy, very joyful when somebody praises them. But can those words of praise, can those words of respect uh, give happiness to these dead people? So these are rhetorical questions. Obviously, their answer is negative, no. Their ears, the ears of the dead people, cannot be relieved, cannot be soothed by flattering words. Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hence that the rod of empire might have swayed or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. Perhaps in this neglected spot, this grave which is not being maintained by anybody, nobody is taking care of this place. So, in this place which is not being taken care of, in this place is laid, means is lying, is sleeping some heart. So heart uh, here stands for the person, and it's an example of metonymy. Heart, one an organ of the body, suggests the person, so it's the figure of speech metonymy, when a part suggests the whole. So heart here stands for the person. Some heart once pregnant with celestial fire. Celestial fire is spiritual fire. So pregnant means full of. So in this place must be lying a person who could have been full of spiritual spirit, means a person who could have become a great monk, a great saint, a great religious personality if he had got an opportunity. Some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hence that the rod of empire might have swayed. So here hence stand for the person. So again you have an example of metonymy. Hence that the rod of empire, royal rod, that is the symbol of omnipotence. So the rod of empire or the royal rod is a symbol of power, a symbol of sovereignty. So, in this place, in this grave, might be sleeping a person who would have been a great ruler, who would have been a great emperor if he had born in a royal family. So, hence that the rod of empire might have swayed, means in this grave there must be lying a person who would have been a great king if he had got this opportunity. The rod of empire might have swayed or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. Waked to ecstasy means they would have played ecstatic tunes on the lyre. So there, out of these poor people, there could have been a great musician also who could have played skillfully. Waked to ecstasy means bliss, happiness. Living lyre, So lyre is a musical instrument, and why the poet has used this word living here along with lyre. So lyre would have given a tune when touched by their fingers. So it seems as if lyre could have become animated if it had touched the fingers of these farmers. So, out of these poor farmers, there could have been a very charming, very skillful, very exquisite musician who could have played melodious tunes on the lyre, which would have made the listeners ecstatic, which would have filled the listeners with ecstasy, with bliss, with happiness, absolute happiness. But knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage and froze the genial current of the soul. But knowledge, so again, knowledge is being personified here. Knowledge to their eyes, her ample pace, ample means her pace full of knowledge, ample, abundant. Her pages, the book of knowledge, which had abundance of knowledge in it. So that book was never opened by knowledge in front of the eyes of these poor farmers. So they were, the poet means to say, they never got an opportunity to get educated, rich with the spoils of time. So the book of knowledge, which is rich, which is full of, which is abundant with the spoils of time, with the means the saga of time, the story of the past history, the everything that has happened in all the fields of life, in the fields of studies. So the book of knowledge is full of those spoils of time, is all those stories of the time, all that saga of the time. But that book was never permitted to be studied by these poor farmers. The goddess of knowledge didn't allow them to study that book. Did never unroll means did never open. So that book of knowledge was never opened in front of the eyes of these poor farmers. Chill penury repressed their noble rage. Chill means cold. Penury, poverty. So penury has been personified here. Cold poverty. Repressed means suppressed. Their noble rage. Noble rage means anger. So they were never allowed to become angry. A poor person is not allowed to become angry. So penury, uh, chill penury, cold poverty. You know that when you have money in your purse, it is said that the purse is warm, your pocket is warm. But when you are devoid of money, your pocket is cold, your purse is cold. So penury is chill, penury is cold, poverty is cold. Chill penury repressed their noble race. So they had to pass a silent life, an eventless life, because they were poor. They didn't have money enough, they didn't have wealth enough to organize parties, to celebrate their festivals in a grand way, in a magnificent way. So they faced chill penury, they faced cold poverty. chill penury repressed their noble race. So their noble race, their anger was suppressed by cold poverty. It can stand for the potential of these farmers also. So we can interpret this line in another way. Chill penury repressed their noble race. Noble race, if we interpret it as the potential, great potential of these farmers. So poverty suppressed their potential. They had the capability of doing great jobs, but their talent, it was suppressed by poverty. They didn't get that opportunity because they were poor, and froze the genial current of the soul. Froze because poverty is chilling, poverty is very cold. It froze, it put an end to the current of their soul. So, soul is like a river, genial current, warm current, great stream of their soul. It was frozen by poverty, that is cold. So the warmth of their soul was frozen by the cold of poverty. Their potential was suppressed by poverty. Their capabilities could not be utilized because they didn't get opportunity to use them. Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear, full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Full many a gem, a lot of gems, a lot of jewels, of purest ray serene, purest, unalloyed, uncontaminated, genuine, authentic, ray, beam, you can say gleam, flash, streak, glimmer, serene, you can say bright, clear, shining. So there are so many jewels, so many precious stones which are full of shine, which are full of gleam, uncontaminated gleam. And where are they? They are in the dark, unfathomed caves of ocean. Beer. So dark means unlighted, gloomy. Unfathomed means that cannot be measured, that cannot be fathomed, that cannot be measured, or you can say immeasurable. Caves means hollows, cavities, underground chambers of ocean, of sea. Beer, you can say possess, own. So inside the caves of oceans, and unfathomed, immeasurable. So inside the immeasurable, dark, gloomy caves of oceans, there are many precious stones which are pure, which are uncontaminated, which are authentic. But we don't know their price, we don't know their value because they never come out of those oceans. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen. Full many a flower, so many flowers, innumerable flowers, uncountable flowers, is born to blush unseen. Blush, blush word is actually used when we feel shy. The color of our face becomes red. So blush actually means that, means to flush, to feel shy, to turn crimson. So there are so many flowers in the desert land and waste their sweetness in the desert. So they just waste their sweetness, they just squander their sweetness on the desert air, on the wasteland, on in the wilderness. So in the desert where nobody goes there, and so many flowers bloom there, and their sweetness, their fragrance is wasted. There is nobody in those deserts to appreciate the fragrance of those flowers, the sweetness of their flowers. So Thomas Gray compares the poor farmers with those gems which are inside the caves of ocean, and with those flowers which bloom in the desert. So the value of those jewels, those gems, and the value of those flowers is not known to anybody because they go unnoticed. In the same way, these poor farmers, their talents go unnoticed. Nobody knows their value because they are not known to us. They are not known to anybody. Next stanza. Some village Hampden that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute, inglorious Milton here may rest, some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. Some village Hampden. Hampden, we know he was an English politician, and he opposed the arbitrary tax that were imposed by Charles I. And Hampden was the cousin of Oliver Cromwell. We know he was the leader in the Civil War of England during 1640s. In 1649, Charles I was hanged, and Hampden and Cromwell, both of them played a vital role in that Civil War. So, some village Hampden that with dauntless breast, dauntless, that cannot be intimidated, that is fearless, that is indomitable, that is valiant, and breast you can say heart or bosom. So among these poor farmers who are lying in these graves, there can be a person who would have been as courageous as Hampden. Some village Hampden, so some rural Hampden, that with dauntless breast, that with indomitable courage, indomitable heart. The little tyrant of his fields withstood. The little tyrant, the small tyrant, the small dictator or despot, and who might be that dictator or despot? It might have been the landlord of those fields. So the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Withstood means faced or resisted. You can say combated, opposed. So there amid these poor farmers, there must have been a person who might have been so courageous like Hampden, and he must have faced, he must have resisted the landlord in his fields in the same way as Hampden had opposed Charles I. Some mute, inglorious Milton here may rest. Mute means voiceless, or you can say dumb. Inglorious means you can say who was not famous, who was unhonored. Milton here may rest. So among these farmers who are lying in these graves, there might have been a person who was equally talented like Milton. If he got an opportunity, he would have become a great poet like Milton. So here might have been lying, here might have been sleeping some mute, inglorious Milton. Mute means voiceless, whose voice was not heard by the world. inglorious who didn't get an opportunity to become famous. Or this line can imply another meaning. We can say if Milton would have been mute and inglorious if he had been born in different circumstances. If Milton had been born in this hamlet, in this village, he would have been equally mute and inglorious. He would not have been such a famous poet. So this line can be interpreted in two ways. Some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. In the same way, among these poor farmers, there might have been a person who was equally courageous like Cromwell, but he was guiltless of his country's blood. He was blameless. He didn't have stains of his country's blood, because we know that Cromwell led the civil war, and whenever there is civil war, the blood is shed. So many people die in civil war. And so Cromwell, although he was a great leader, he remained Lord Protector for since 1649, when Charles I was hanged, up to 1658 till his death. He remained the Lord Protector of England. But he was guilty of the blood of his country. But these poor farmers, among these poor farmers, there might have been a person who would have been as courageous as Cromwell, but he is guiltless of his country's blood. Means he doesn't have any stains, any spots of his country's blood. He didn't shed the blood of his countrymen. The applause of listening senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty over a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eyes. This stanza is connected to this expression, their lot forbade. Their lot forbade means their destiny refused. So their destiny refused to do all these things. The applause of listening senates to command. Applause means clapping, cheering, ovation. Of listening senates. Listening, attentive. Senates, legislative body or assembly. To command, to have control of, to dominate. So their lot forbade, their destiny refused them to command, to have control over legislative bodies, over assemblies who are listening to them attentively and who are clapping for them. So it was not in their destiny. Their destiny did not allow them to command over senates, to have control over legislative bodies. The threat of pain and ruin to despise. So again, their lot forbade, their destiny refused them to despise, means to hate, to ignore. The threats of pain, threats, warnings, or you can say menaces of pain, of agony, of affliction, and ruin, destruction. So their destiny refused them to hate, to ignore the warnings of agony, affliction, or destruction. So it was not their destiny. To scatter plenty over a smiling land. And again, their lot forbade. Their destiny refused them to scatter. To scatter means to throw away, Plenty means plenty of money, a lot of money. To throw away a lot of money over a smiling land. Smiling land, smiling people. So, when somebody gives a lot of money to people, to poor people, they smile on that person. So, it was not their destiny, their Lord forbid. Their destiny refused them to scatter money over smiling people and read their history in a nation's eyes. So again, their destiny refused them, did not permit them to read their history, to read the story of their life in the in a nation's eyes, in the eyes of people of a country. So the rulers, all these tasks, all these activities are done by the rulers, but these poor farmers were not permitted to do all these activities, to command over senates, to uh, ignore the warnings of pain and ruin, to scatter plenty over a smiling land means to throw away money over smiling people, or to read the history of their life, the narratives of their life in the eyes of people of the country. So all these activities were forbidden by their destiny. Nor circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes confined, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. So the sentence is continuing, their Lord forbade. So, nor circumscribed alone. Circumscribe means to restrict, to cramp, to obstruct. So, not only their virtues, their growing virtues, their good qualities, their talents. So, by the destiny, not only were their virtues restricted, their good qualities were not only restricted, but their crimes confined. So they did not get an opportunity even to become great criminals. So they didn't get an opportunity to utilize their talents, and at the same time they didn't get an opportunity to become great criminals. So their virtues were circumscribed, means their virtues were restricted. At the same time their crimes were confined, so their crimes were also restricted. They were not allowed, they were not permitted by their destiny, by their luck, to develop their good qualities or to commit crimes. Forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne. Forbade means their destiny forbade them. They were refused by their destiny to wade through. Wade through means to make a path through, to make a way through. So, and to make a way towards a throne through slaughter, by murdering people, by killing people. So you must have read in history, there have been so many kings, so many rulers who tried to achieve the throne by killing their opponents, by killing their brothers. It is said about Ashoka the Great that he killed his 99 brothers in order to get the throne. So many examples are there in history. So but these poor farmers, they didn't get this opportunity. This opportunity was forbidden to them, it was denied to them by their destiny. They didn't have this opportunity to achieve a throne by massacring people, by killing their opponents, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. So shut the gates of mercy means closing the doors of kindness on humanity. So when a person becomes so cruel, he closes the doors of kindness. So these people didn't get this opportunity to become cruel by closing the doors of kindness. So they didn't get an opportunity to become kind, and on the other way they didn't get an opportunity to become cruel. So this duality is there, this these binary facts are there in this stanza. Now next stanza: the struggling pangs of conscious truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenuous shame. The struggling means the conflicting pangs, sharp pain of conscious truth. Conscious means deliberate, truth to hide. So when we try to hide some truth, some deliberate truth, some known truth, then we feel a sharp pain, because our conscience conflicts, our mind conflicts in hiding that truth. So these poor farmers, they didn't have anything to hide. So they didn't feel these pangs, they didn't feel those sharp pains of conflict, of struggle. To quench the blushes of ingenuous shame. To quench is to extinguish or to pacify the blushes. When we are ashamed, we are blushed, our face becomes red. So they didn't have to blush. The blushes of ingenuous shame, ingenuous, unsophisticated, and shame means humiliation. So they never faced any kind of humiliation because they had nothing to hide. They never committed any crime, they never committed any shame, and that's why they were never ashamed of themselves. They never had to hide anything, they never had to conceal anything, because their life was an open book. So they didn't have anything to hide, and they never have to be had to be embarrassed, they never had to be ashamed of anything. Or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Or heap means to fill up. The shrine means the dwelling place, the house of luxury and pride. So, luxury and pride are here again personified, and both these words stand for those people who live a luxurious life, a life full of pride. So they didn't fill up the dwelling places or the houses of aristocratic people, of rich people, of healthy people with what? With incense kindled at the muse's flame. Incense means a fragrance or a fragrant substance that is burnt in shrines, in temples, in the places of worship. But here, incense stands for poetry, poems. With incense kindled, kindle means to burn, but here it means inspired at the muse's flame. So flame means fire. So this line has two meanings. It can be interpreted in two ways. The one literal meaning is with the incense kindled at the muse's flame, means the the fragrant substance burnt with the flame taken from the altar of the goddess of music, Muse. Or the actual meaning is that these poor farmers, they never uh, wrote any poems, they never compose any poems praising the wealthy people. With incense means with poetry, kindled means inspired at the muse's flame by the goddess of muse. So these poor farmers, they never flattered anyone by composing poems praising them. Generally, it happens that poets compose poems in praise of royal people, as we know that all the kings and queens, they had poet laureates, and those poets generally composed poems in praise of those kings and queens. But these poor people, these poor farmers, they never got this opportunity to flatter any royal personality, any wealthy person, by composing poems devoted to them. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learned to stray. Along the cool, sequestered vale of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife. Far from the madding crowd, far from its alliteration, and Far from the Madding Crowd is the title of a novel written by Thomas Hardy. So, far from is away from. The madding crowd, the frenzied crowd of people, madding crowds, ignoble strife. Ignoble, that's not of any value, means unworthy, trivial. Strife, struggle. So, everywhere, generally in the cities, we observe that people are running hither and thither continuously. They are always struggling to earn money than to spend money. So, this is called by Thomas Hardy ignoble strife of madding crowd. So, away from the frenzied crowd of people and away from their trivial struggle, their sober wishes. Their means sober means simple, wishes, desires. Simple desires of whom? Of these poor farmers. So the simple desires of these poor farmers never learned to stray. Stray means to deviate from the proper path, means to get misled. So they never lost their way, they were never misled. Their desires never deviated from the proper path. Along the cool, sequestered vale of life. Cool, sequestered vale. Sequestered means secluded, or you can say separated, lonely, vale of life, valley of life. So they lived in the cool, means peaceful, secluded valley of life. They kept the noiseless tenor of their way. They kept means they followed. The noiseless means peaceful. Tenor, tenor is another spelling for tenor, that is American spelling, and tenor, tenor is British spelling, and it means movement of their way, of their path. So the movement of their life was noiseless, peaceful. So, in the secluded valley of life, in the peaceful, secluded valley of life, they passed their life noiselessly, peacefully, very calmly, without making any hustle and bustle like the people of cities, the madding crowd of the cities. So they didn't pass their life in a frenzy like the people of cities. They lived in a secluded, cool valley of life. Their life was peaceful, utterly calm. Yet, even these bones from insult to protect, some frail memorial is still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture dagged, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. Yet, means still, even these bones means skeletons of dead persons, dead poor farmers, from insult means from being trampled underfoot, from being trampled by the passers-by. To protect means to keep safe. Yet even these bones from insult to protect. So in order to protect, in order to keep safe these skeletons of dead bodies from being insulted, from being trampled underfoot by the uh, passers-by, by the people who pass from here, they may trample these skeletons under their feet. So in order to save these skeletons from being insulted, some frail memorial, frail means weak, which is not sophisticated, which is not grand, which is not magnificent, some frail memorial. Memorial is a tomb that has been created in their memory. Some frail memorial is still erected nigh. Erected means constructed, nigh, nearby. So nearby, near their graves, some memorial, some monument, some weak monument, some unsophisticated monument has been built up. So some type of tombs have been built up over their graves so that any passerby cannot insult their bones, insult their skeletons. With uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture dagged. With uncouth rhymes, uncouth, which are not very refined, unrefined rhymes means verses. So some verses are inscribed over those sculpture, over those structures that have been constructed there. Shapeless, why they have been called shapeless? Because they have been erected, they have been constructed in a very rough way, in a very poor way. So sculpture dagged means decorated. So these tombs, these graves have been decorated in a very shapeless manner, in a very poor manner, in a very rough manner. And with uncouth rhymes means with unrefined verses. So some verses have been inscribed on those tombs of poor farmers. Implores the passing tribute of an eye. Implores means request. Passing tribute, respect of a sigh means though the persons who are passing from there, they should pay tribute, they should pay respect in the form of a sigh. Sigh means moan, a cry. So they should pay a tribute. And every person that passes from there should pay a tribute, should pay respect to these poor farmers. It is implored in those verses, in those lines which are inscribed over the tomb of these poor farmers. So in those lines, it is implored, it is requested from the passengers, from the passers, that from the travelers who pass from there, that they should pay respect to these poor farmers. Their name, their years spelt by the unlettered muse. Their name means the names of poor farmers. Their years means the year of their birth and death and their life history. Spelt by means written by the unlettered muse. Unlettered means uneducated. Muse here stands for the poet. So the poet who was uneducated, because he was also a resident of the same village, he had never gone to school, so that's why that person has been called unlettered. Whosoever composed those rhymes which are inscribed on the tombs of these poor farmers, so they were spelled, they were composed, they were written by unlettered muse, by uneducated poet. The place of fame and elegy supply. So they supply means they replace, they take the place of fame and elegy. Elegy, the song of death, an elegiac song, an elegiac poem. So if some famous personality dies, people write elegies, people compose elegies on their death. But on the death of these poor farmers, these uncouth rhymes have been composed. So these uncouth rhymes have replaced the fame and elegy. So fame is missing from their lives, elegiac songs are missing from their lives. No famous poet has composed an elegiac poems on the death of these poor farmers, and they are not famous personalities. Nothing is written about them in the history books. So in place of all that fame and elegy, there are only these uncouth rhymes, means unrefined rhymes are there on their tombs, on their graves. And many a holy text around she strews, and many a holy text. So some biblical texts are also written there. Some lines from biblical text have been quoted there, and they are inscribed on their graves. Many a holy text. So text, some lines from scriptures, from religious books. Holy means religious. So from religious books, from scriptures, some lines have been quoted and they have been inscribed on their tombs. Around she strews. She means that unlettered muse, that poet, that person. The poet uses the pronoun she for that person, because muse is the goddess of poetry. So that person who has composed these rhymes, he might be a man or a woman, but the pronoun she has been used because he is referring to the goddess of music, the goddess of poetry, and that is muse. She strews. Strew means to scatter. So the holy text has been scattered over that tomb. Some lines from religious books, from scriptures, have been inscribed over that grave, that teach the rustic moralist to die. That means those lines, that holy text teaches the rustic. Rustic means rural, villager. Rustic moralist means the people of the village, how to die, how they should live, and how they should give up this life, how they should give up this world. So that teach the rustic moralist to die. Those holy texts that have been inscribed on the graves of these poor farmers, they teach the rural people how to die, how to give up this life. For who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, displeasing, anxious being ever resigned, left the warm precincts of the cheerful day, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. Beautiful alliteration, longing, lingering look. For who? For means because who is there? To dumb forgetfulness. Dumb means silent. Forgetfulness here stands for death. A prey means a victim. For who is there that at the time of becoming a victim of death, means at the time of dying, this pleasing anxious being ever resigned. Pleasing means pleasant, anxious being means this anxious body, this life, anxious, full of anxieties. Being means our life, our body. Ever resigned means ever submitted, ever surrendered. So who has surrendered this life of himself? Who has surrendered his body of himself? This pleasing anxious being. So here is a type of oxymoron. So something which is anxious, which is full of anxieties, how can it be pleasing? And if something is pleasing, how can it be full of anxieties? So this is oxymoron. All of us have anxieties in our lives, but this life still seems pleasing when we are going to die. So this pleasing anxious being ever resigned, ever surrendered. So who surrenders this life? Who surrenders this pleasing body to death? Left the warm precincts of the cheerful day. Left means gave up, depart from the warm precincts. Warm precincts, these the warm surroundings of life. Cheerful day stands for life, for this world. When we die, we leave this cheerful day and we go into a night that is unknown to us. So who leaves this warm surrounding of life? These warm surroundings of life are left by whom? So cheerful day means this world, this life, human life, which is like a cheerful day. And on the other hand, death is like a night, dark night. So who leaves this cheerful day, this pleasing world, this shining world, this bright world, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind? Nor cast means without showing a longing, lingering look. Longing means desirous, linger means to stay, look behind. So every person looks back while dying, looks back with expectation. Longing means a desirous look, an expectant look. So when the person dies, he doesn't die very easily. He doesn't want to leave this world, which is like a cheerful day. He wants to live for a few more moments. Every person, when he dies, he casts a longing, lingering look, a desirous look. He looks towards this world with a desire to live a few more moments. So for who is in this world? It means this is a rhetorical question, and the answer is obviously in the negative. There is no person in this world. Who is in this world? And the answer is there is no person in this world who goes from this life, who departs from this universe, who departs from this life without expecting to live a few more moments. On some fond breast the parting soul relies. Some pious drops the closing eye requires. Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries. Even in our ashes live their wonted fires. on some fond breast, fond, loving, breast, heart. The parting soul means the dying person, the departing soul, the departing person. Relies means trusts. So the departing person, the dying person, trusts some loving heart. So the line means to say, when a person dies, he or she wants to die on the heart of or in the lap of a person who loves him. He wants that some loved one should be near him. So as you must have noticed, when the people die, they call their children, they call their relatives near them. So they want to have just a touch, the last touch of their loved ones on some fond breast, on some loving heart, on some loving person. The parting soul relies, the dying person trusts. The dying person wants to have a touch of some loving person. Some pious drops. Pious drops means tears, religious drops, serene drops. So these drops stand for tears, pious drops, sincere drops. The closing eye, the eyes that are going to be closed, that are going to die, requires means wants. The closing eyes of a person want that some other eyes should have tears for them. He should not die unwept. He doesn't want to die unsung. He doesn't want to die unremembered. So every dying person wants that his near and dear ones, his relatives, should be with him and they should shed tears over his death. Some pious drops the closing eye requires. The closing eyes, the dying eyes want that the eyes of other persons should shed tears for them. Even from the tomb, the voice of nature cries. Even from the tomb means even from inside the grave. Even when the dead person is buried, the voice of nature cries. The voice of nature, nature has been personified here. So the voice of nature cries, the voice of the soul, the voice of that human body cries even from the grave. So when the person dies, although he may have lived 90 years or 100 years, even then he feels, he realizes that some desires have remained unfulfilled. There are some more tasks that he could have done. So the desires are never fulfilled. Even in our ashes live their wanted fires. Even in our ashes, ashes means the remains of those persons which we have with us. So when these people die, we have their ashes with us. So even in those ashes live their wanted fires. Wanted fires means unfulfilled desires. So their unfulfilled desires are present in the ashes that we possess. For thee, who mindful of the unhonored dead, dost in these lines their artless tale relate, if chance by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Now, up till the 23rd stanza, the poet was the poet was talking about the poor farmers, and from now onwards, from the 24th stanza, he is talking about himself. What will happen when he himself dies? How he will be remembered by people. So, for thee means for you. For you means for Thomas Gray. For thee who mindful of the unhonored dead. Mindful means remembering of unhonored dead means these poor farmers which have not been respected by anyone. You have remembered them. You who have remembered the poor farmers of this village, dost in these lines their artless tale relate. Dost means does. In these lines means in the foregoing lines, in these 23 stanzas, does in these lines their artless tale. Artless means simple, true, full of truth, which is devoid of artificiality, or which is genuine, which is authentic. So their artless tale means a story. So the genuine story of these poor farmers you have related means you have narrated. So you have remembered those disrespected poor farmers, and you have narrated their authentic story in these lines, in these stanzas. If it happens by chance, if it happens by coincidence, by lonely contemplation led. Lonely, alone, in solitude. Contemplation means meditation, thinking. Led, so if somebody else is led in the same way as you have been led by the memory of these poor farmers, so if some kindred means inspired, spirit means person, shall inquire thy fate, shall investigate into thy fate, your life story. So, in the same way as you have narrated the story of these poor farmers in these 23 stanzas, in the same way, if chance comes, if it happens after your death, some other person, some other kindred spirit, some other inspired poet will inquire, will investigate into, or we can say will narrate thy fate, your story. The story of your life will be narrated by some other person. By lonely means alone, contemplation, meditation. So inspired in his solitude, some other soul, some other poet will narrate your story, will write an elegy on your life, on your death. Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, haply means perhaps. Some hoary-headed, hoary means white, and you can say when a person gets old, his head becomes hoary, his hair turned gray, so he becomes white-headed. Hoary-headed means a person with white hair. Swain may stand for the peasant of that village. Swain may say, so some old peasant, a white-headed peasant may say, happily perhaps some white-headed peasant may say about you, about Thomas Gray, when he is dead. What will he say? Oft have we seen him. Oft means often. Often we used to see him, we used to observe him, we used to watch him at the peep of dawn. Peep of dawn in the early morning. Peep of dawn when the sun has not risen, the night has just gone, and there is a red light in the sky in the east. So that is called peep of dawn. So in the early morning we have often seen him brushing with hasty steps. Brushing, wiping, moving away with hasty steps means with fast steps. The dews away, the drops of dew which are on the grass. So when he walked fast, he wiped those dewdrops from the grass to meet the sun. And what was his purpose of moving fast? he went to meet the sun. He went to watch the sunrise upon the upland lawn. Upland lawn means on the highland. So, from a high place, you can watch the sunrise earlier. If you go on the roof, you can watch the sunrise earlier. So he wanted to watch the sunrise. That's why he went hastily upon the hillside, brushing with hasty steps the dews away. So, wiping the dewdrops from the grass with his fast steps to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. Lawn, grassland. So, on the high grasslands, he went to watch the sunrise. There at the foot of yonder nodding beech that reads its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would be stretched and pour upon the brook that babbles by. There at the foot of yonder nodding beech. At the foot of means under. Yonder means which is in front of me, in front of the speaker. Nodding beech. Nodding means moving. When the wind is blowing, the tree moves hither, thither. So it seems to be slumbering. Nodding means slumbering, and beech is the name of the tree. So under that tree of beech, which seems to be nodding, which seems to be slumbering. So under that tree that reads its old fantastic roots so high, and the roots of that beech tree have come up. Old fantastic roots. Fantastic means fanciful. The tree is very old and its roots have come up the land. So it reads means encircles. So the tree encircles itself with its own roots. So under that tree, which encircles itself by its own old fantastic roots, old beautiful roots, which have come up so high, which have come up the land, which have come up the soil, his listless length. Listless means careless. Length means here stands for body. So he lied down there listlessly, carelessly at the noontide, means at the time of noon, at the mid of the day. Would be stretched means he would lie down, he would rest there. So the hoary-headed swain, that old farmer of the village, is commenting about the poet that in the morning he would seen walking briskly towards the highland, and in the noon time, at the mid of the day, he was seen resting under the beech tree. So there at the foot of yonder nodding beech means under that beech tree, which seems to be slumbering, that reads its old fantastic roots so high, which is showing its old roots, its large roots above the soil, above the land. He would sleep under that tree. His listless length means his careless body at noontide would be stretched. He would stretch, he would lie down, he would rest. He used to rest under that tree very carelessly, and pour upon the brook that babbles by. Pour upon means observed, watched carefully, or you can say stared at. And pour upon the brook that babbles by. Brook means fall. So he would look at the fall which babbles by means gurgles. Babble is the sound of water. So the water of the brook makes a babbling sound. So here the figure of speech, onomatopoeia. So in the noontime, the poet would lie down under the beech tree and he used to observe the fall, the water, the gurgling water of the fall. Hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies, he would rove. Hard by yon wood. This is yon, not you. Y-O-N. Yon wood, the wood, the forest that is in front of the speaker. So hard by means nearby. Near that wood. Now smiling as in scorn. He would walk smiling. He would walk alone and smiling for himself as in scorn, as if neglecting something, as if neglecting this world, as if hating this world. So he would just careless about this world and he would smile himself. He would walk in this forest, towards this forest, smiling without paying attention to anything, just engrossed in himself, just drowned in his own thoughts. Now smiling as in scorn. Scorn means hatred. Muttering his wayward fancies. Muttering means murmuring. He used to talk to himself, muttering his wayward fancies. Wayward fancies, fancies means imagination, and wayward means uncontrolled or unpremeditated. You can say extempore. So wayward, whatever came into his mind. Wayward fancies means imaginations that suddenly came into his mind, the thoughts that suddenly entered his mind, that were produced in his brain. He muttered them, he murmured them, he talked to himself. He would rove. So he used to walk. Now drooping woeful vain, like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. Now drooping. Drooping means bending. Sometimes he would bend down. Woeful vain. Woe means sorrow. Full of sorrow, vain, his body. He would bend down his body, his personality, which was full of sorrow, like one forlorn, like a person who is forlorn. Forlorn means lonely, who has been deserted, who has been given up by everyone, by all the loved ones. So forlorn, a person who is alone because he has been given up by his loved ones. So he would bend up like that person. Or crazed with care. Crazed means mad or insane. A person who has become crazy, who has turned mad with care means with worries, with anxieties. So sometimes he would behave like a person who has turned insane because of the anxieties of life, because of the worries of life. Or crossed in hopeless love. Crossed means betrayed. In hopeless love means unreturned love. So sometimes he would behave like a person who has been betrayed in hopeless love. He doesn't have any hope of getting his love back. One morn I missed him. So it happened one morning. The same statement of that old person is continuing. One morning I missed him, means I didn't see him. On the customed hill, on that hill where he regularly used to go. Customed, you can say familiar. So one morning I didn't see him on the same hill where he used to walk every day, where he used to go daily. Along the heath desert. So I didn't see him in the heath, even in the barren land, in the desert. So he was not visible on the hill, he was not visible on the heath, on the barren land, and near his favorite tree. So he was not visible near his dear tree where he used to lie down in the noon time. Even under that tree, he was not visible. Another came. So, another came here can have two meanings. In one way, we can say another person came, or you can say another day came, another morning came. So, there passed another person, or we can say there came up another morning, nor yet beside the rill. So, yet we didn't see him. Beside means near. The rill means stream. So, he was not visible near the stream also, where he used to go, nor up the lawn. So, he was not visible on the lawn, on the grassland, which was his favorite place. He used to meet with the sun there. So, on that upland grassland, even there he was not visible. Nor at the wood was he, and he was not in the forest where he used to go. So it happened one day that he was not visible on his favorite places. The next, with dirges due in sad array, slow through the churchway path we saw him borne. Approach and read, for thou canst read the lay graved on the stone beneath you, aged thorn. The next with dirges. The next means the next day. With dirges, dirges means sad songs that are sung at the death of somebody. Due means proper. In sad array means dress, robe, or clothes. And sad array means serious clothes. The clothes that are worn, that are put on the death of somebody. So the next morning, the narrator listened sad songs, and he saw people clothed in serious clothes, wearing serious clothes. So here Thomas Gray is describing his own funeral procession. Slow through the church way path we saw him borne. Slowly through the church way path means going towards the churchyard, going on the path, on the way towards the churchyard. We saw him borne. We saw him being carried. So people were carrying the dead body of Thomas Gray towards the churchyard to get him buried. Approach. Approach means move forward and read, and try to read, for thou canst read, because you can read. You are a literate person. The lay. The lay means the small narrative poem, graved, that is engraved or that is inscribed on the stone, on the gravestone or on the stone of the tomb, beneath yon. Again, this is yon, Y-O-N. Beneath yon aged thorn. So this is Thorn, thorn. Beneath means under, yon which is in front of you. Aged means old, thorn means thorny tree or thorny bush. So the tomb or the grave that is under that thorny tree, on that stone, on the stone of that grave, on the stone of that tomb are engraved, are inscribed some lines, and you should read them. Now, this is the epitaph. Epitaph, the lines that are inscribed on the grave of a person are called epitaph. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Here rests. So, in this grave is resting his head. Now, head, again, here is the figure of speech metonymy. So, head stands for the whole body. So, here is resting the body of that person. His head means his body upon the lap of earth, in the lap of Mother Earth. So, earth has been personified. She is like a mother, and in her lap, everybody rests. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth. So, here the body of that person is resting in the lap of Mother Earth. And whose body is it? A youth. That is the body of a young man, a youth. To fortune and to fame unknown. Fortune and fame, both of them have been personified. They were unknown to fortune and to fame. Means the youth was not fortunate, he didn't have a good destiny, and he was not famous. So, fortune and fame are the persons, because they have been personified here, are the persons who were not familiar with that youth, who did not know that youth. So, to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not on his humble birth. Fair science, great science, frowned not. Frown is the antonym of smile. So, leave aside smile, the science didn't even frown on him. So, smiling is very far away. The science, the subject science, didn't even frown on him, on his humble birth. Humble birth, he was born to a poor family. He was born, his birth was humble, means he was born in a poor family, in a simple family. And melancholy, melancholy has been personified here. So, sorrows, sufferings, miseries marked him for her own. Marked him for her own means adopted him. He was not familiar to fortune and fame. Even science did not like him. But there was one person, because melancholy has been personified here. There was only one person who adopted him, who said that Thomas Gray is his own. And who was that person? Melancholy means misery, worries. So, he was adopted by worries, he was adopted by miseries. So, only melancholy marked him, only melancholy recognized him for her own, saying that this person belongs to me, this person is my relative, this person is mine own. Large was his bounty and his soul sincere. Large was his bounty, his heart was large. Bounty means benevolence, love, sincerity. So he was very large hearted. So it would be written on his grave, these lines, because they compose the epitaph. So it would be written on his grave that Thomas Gray was a large hearted person. Large was his bounty. He was a very benevolent person. He helped others. He was he was a philanthropist. So large was his bounty. His heart was large. He was a large-hearted person, and his soul sincere. His soul was truthful, sincere, truthful, earnest. Heaven did a recompense as largely sent. Heaven means God Almighty did a recompense. Recompense means compensation, or we can say reward, as largely sent. So God sent for him a large compensation, a large reward of his sincerity, of his benevolence. He gave to misery all he had, a tear. He gave means Thomas Gray gave to misery. Misery has again been personified here. So, and misery was the person, or melancholy was the person who adopted him. He gave to misery all he had. So, whatever he had, he gave to misery. And what did he have? He had only a tear. That was his only possession. That was his only wealth. So, he possessed only a tear, and that tear, that only wealth of Thomas Gray was given to misery. He gained from heaven, it was all he wished, a friend. And in exchange for that tear, he achieved a reward from heaven, from God Almighty. And what was that reward? That was a friend. No farther seek his merits to disclose. No farther seek. No farther means any more. Seek means try, attempt, search for. So don't search anymore. His merits to disclose. Merits, good qualities. To disclose means to reveal. Now don't try to reveal any further his good qualities. Good qualities of whom? Good qualities of Thomas Gray. Or draw his frailties. Draw means to bring out. His frailties, his drawbacks, his vices from their dread abode. From their dread, fearful, abode, dwelling place. And dread abode stands for grave. So don't try to bring out his drawbacks from their grave. So the poet is now forbidding the narrator to not to seek the merits and demerits of Thomas Gray. There they alike in trembling hope repose. There means in that dread abode, in that grave. They means his merits and his frailties, his merits and demerits, his virtues as well as his vices. There they alike simultaneously, similarly, in the same manner, in trembling hope. Trembling, quivering, wavering, hope, expectation, repose means rest. So his merits and demerits, all of them are resting in the grave. And what is that trembling hope? Trembling hope means expectation for the doomsday, for the judgment day. So his merits and demerits are waiting for their reward, which will be given to them on the doomsday, and they are resting now in grave. The bosom of his father and his God. So the soul of the poet is now near the bosom, near the heart of his father, of his creator, God Almighty. So now the poet is with his God, with his creator, with his Almighty. So now don't disturb him anymore. Here the poem comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.